And so we are moving into a brand new Earth. We are shifting into a whole new vibrational frequency. Throughout many of the decades past, if we're looking from all the way back into the 1900s to the 2000s, it was considered to be, I guess around between 1900 up to 2000s, what is ruler? 1900 to 2000s, it was considered to be quite a rare thing, especially in the earlier times, for an individual to come in and being able to detect the idea of apparition, being able to see entities from another particular dimension. But as we move forward through this center point, moving into the 1950s all the way up into the 2000s, it's becoming much more common for people to actually detect entities. So my little symbols represent an entity or an apparition. Well, what is the purpose of these entities, of these apparitions that we may see? If we are again walking inside a house that we have never been in before, all of a sudden we start to see this figure of a man walking down the hallway and all of a sudden passing through a wall. What did we just experience? We just saw this figure that looks like a man pass through a wall. Well, this apparition here represents an entity that has had some type of emotional attachment pertaining to this area. So apparitions, or entities in that particular way, exist as astral beings. And these particular astral beings become emotionally attached to surroundings. So if it was an old man who passed away in that house 50 years ago, and we're just still starting to see that old man as this kind of blurry apparition, and just starting to walk through walls, or we can just start to see that certain things are being levitated or being lifted up. This old man still has a particular attachment to this place. But how is it that we are able to see it? Well, there are many of us who are already automatically attuned with astral vision. So the third eye, right here. So basically, many of us have this ability of auric sight, astral sight, where we can detect apparitions, where we can detect entities that are moving around. So it's not so much in the idea of just a haunting in that way, being able to go into a haunted place, being able to see an old man move around, see them pass through a wall, being able to lift up objects, even being able to communicate with them that way. So basically, when we're looking at an individual who has that specific form of sight or capability, they have been fully attuned to this because throughout their lifetime, throughout their life sequence, they have had growth. They have had expansion states where they were able to achieve third eye vision, where they were able to achieve advanced claircognizance, just the state of instantaneous knowing. They were able to hear voices, having something like clairaudience. They were able to feel energies, such as clairsentience. They were able to touch and smell, which represents, again, clairgustance, claircentric abilities. They may also be very, very adept in regards to psychometry. It all just depends upon the individual. But many of us are naturally attuned to actually just start seeing these apparitions or these entities in our daily lives. Well, what is this getting at? Well, again, as I stated, we're not just looking at a haunted house here. We're not just looking at an old man living inside a house. The idea of entities and apparitions, because we have moved into a brand new earth, is actually a lot more common. It is actually quite common for people to actually see clear, vivid people that are walking around the cities, walking around the towns, and that they may not even be completely indigenous to our dimension, which means they are visitors, they are travelers. You may notice this because no matter what you say to the person, they're not interacting in the same time stream that you are. So they are an entity from another particular dimensional earth. And this is basically what's happening right now. This is especially what's been happening within the past several years, is that we have noticed this fold. We have noticed this inversion of singularity that has come together. And because that has existed, this has taken place, our own universe has been split in half in regards to what we could consider to be a masculine and a feminine universe. And basically there's this rainbow arch, there's this rainbow bridge, a prism, that is helping us to move from one transiting universe into another transiting universe. And so as we're going through this transit, which is still happening right now, as the time of the making of this video, we are again starting to see different forms of entities. We're even starting to see cities that do not naturally exist upon our Earth, that can be seen in the sky, that can be seen across the water. It's another type of entity. But it's the whole idea that we are actually shifting and transiting through different dimensions. Just as the Earth is traveling with the Sun and traveling through the galactic transit, we ourselves are traveling through a dimensional transit. And we are now starting to notice that there are people that we can just notice walking right in front of us. No matter what we say to them, they won't acknowledge us because they're operating on a different dimensional stream. We're actually looking at an intersection between two Earths in regards to how some entities may notice us and some may not. Again, it can also come to the idea of being able to see elementals, going into a forest, and being able to see these incredible looking beings. Some that may look like elves or fairies or pixies, or something else of that particular nature. And just seeing these beings pass through trees, seeing these beings just go right behind a tree and then not being able to come out, and you'll walk around that entire tree and they're nowhere to be found. This again can happen. This is the whole idea about how we are evolving as a species to become a fourth density race. And so our own abilities are expanding. This is not something of a rare person, not just like an Edgar Cayce who can do this and who was able to go to sleep and being able to create these incredible prophecies. It's basically that we have millions of Edgar Cayce style psychics, intuitives, channels, mediums, etc. that are upon the planet, and we're seeing phenomena like this all the time. And so how do we connect with these particular entities or apparitions as they come through? Well, it all depends upon them, because we have to understand that when we're working together with other entities, when we're working with apparitions, it's no more different than placing a phone call. We can certainly pick up our receiver and dial the number, but they have to pick up that receiver and be willing to call back. So it is very possible that if you were in the woods and you see an elemental entity, and they start to look at you, and you're sending them lots of love and lots of blessings and want to know who they are, they may want to say something to you in return. It's all just about being able to develop relationship. Because again, relationship is the biggest thing as it relates to psychic ability. We want to build relationship with the entities, with the apparitions, just with ourselves, with our own higher self, with our own soul. We want to build that type of relationship. But it is absolutely true that we are seeing entities coming here from different dimensional Earths and just walking through. This is what Adronis has referred to as background people. And this is also what Dolores Cannon, the late Dolores Cannon, has referred to in some of her books about backdrop people in that way. Adronis also refers to them as living extras in that way. So basically what's happening is that these beings are very much flesh and blood, just like us. But again, they are operating on a different time stream, a different dimensional stream. And so this is why we have so many different background people, or backdrop people, is because they appear holographic as an insert. And they're actually existing in different parallel Earths, and they are not actually able to even detect us in certain ways. Now again, the background people have different types of aspects to them. Okay? So there are ones that are from dimensional Earth. There are ones that are here but are holographic. There are other ones here, but they may be mind shifters. So, dimensional Earth background people, again, are usually ones you cannot interact with. They're the type of entities that when they're walking past you, there's just they don't even know you're there. Have you ever had that happen? When you're walking down a street, all of a sudden this person almost nearly bumps right into you because it almost feels like they have absolutely no realization that you're there. Because in their reality, it's quite possible that you're not. And that's basically the intersection between a dimensional Earth entity, or I should say in that sense, a DEE, dimensional Earth entity. just being able to intersect with another parallel Earth and going through this transit. Doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but there will be transitional points where, again, as we're traveling through interstellar space through Earth, we are also traveling through dimensional space and time. Dimensional time-space, dimensional space-time. And we are intersecting together with these dimensional Earth entities. They look just like you and me. They wear our kind of clothes, have our kind of faces, have our kind of bodies. You just wouldn't be able to detect them. But it's just something that's off about them. They just don't even realize that you exist. They're just walking like this, and they can almost collide right into you. And you could feel it. You could feel that hit, but they'll just keep walking, right? It's because, again, in their dimension, you don't exist. There's something else there coming up in regards to their own perception. So that's a dimensional Earth entity that is basically transiting between dimensions, a type of background person. Then we have holograms, and it is exactly as it sounds. That we basically have thought form created holograms that the Earth produces. And so this basically means that, for example, myself, I could be seen, a version of myself could be seen in Europe, walking the streets right now. A version of me could be seen in Brazil, doing something, whatever it may be. We basically allot our own energies as part of the Earth to create some type of continuity. So basically, based upon the individual that is just walking down the street, there's some type of singularity here that is connecting them to attract background people that represent aspects of their subconscious. And when a physical human being is not available, the Earth will actually create a thought form hologram of yourself, and you will actually appear as a background person, but you're a hologram. And so it's basically, in that sense, like a collective bilocation. You don't even know you're doing it. This is why, again, there can be times where you feel that you see somebody that you swear you know, and they look exactly like that person, but you had no idea how they got to the other side of the world. You may try and call out their name, but they don't answer. Well, that could be the example of a holographic bilocation of a background person, right? Of that particular type of entity. So again, a hologram. And again, it's also possible that these holograms can glitch as well too. For a person, again, who is very, very adept at psychic sight, at auric sight, at astral sight, they can actually start to look at a person who's just slowly starting to walk down the street, and they'll notice they'll glitch because they have practically no chakra system. They have practically no form of aura in that way. They're just a projection. So it's no more different than how we would bump into people in the dream plane and actually see that they are just projections of our subconscious. It's the exact same thing with Earth. And we have to understand that when we're here on this planet, it is really no more different than the dream plane, because we create projections all the time in the dream plane. Well, here, a lot of the time, we create projection. From what I'm receiving right now, approximately 60% daily of the people that you may bump into a major city are not actually human beings. About 60% on average. You're actually bumping into holograms. You're bumping into projections. You're bumping into the aspects of different people that are being projected in that certain way, because these people represent aspects of your subconscious. That's not to say that you won't bump into people that are, soulful, just as you are. But I'm basically talking about major metropolises. If we're looking at a New York City, if we're looking at a Los Angeles, if we're looking at a Toronto, if we're looking at, whatever else you want, Moscow, in that sense. We're seeing just thousands and thousands of people walking the streets. And again, about 60% of those thousands of people are projections. And again, through each person, the projections will vary, just based upon, in that sense, what needs to be learned. So again, these are the types of entities that roam our streets, that are here upon the planet. So we have dimensional Earth entities. We have holographic entity background people. We have mind shifters. Okay, so this is again what Adronis refers to as mind shifters, beings who may feel like they shapeshift in that way. Basically, what it can represent is that of a light body or an astral body experience, and that these particular beings have the capability to proficiently mind shift their own appearance when in astral form or when in light body form. So they could appear just like me, and within a second, bam, they all of a sudden become a beautiful woman, right? just based upon that thought intention. There are, again, other particular beings that are physical, just like you and me, and they are able to utilize holographic technology, or they are so psychically adept that they're able to project a thought form, and you'd swear that perhaps this lizard man looks exactly like a 6'2", blonde-haired, blue-eyed businessman, wearing a suit and tie, walking down the street. That is how proficient some of these can be. And so this is the aspect of mind shifters. So sometimes it can be technological. Sometimes it can be natural. Utilizing psi ability. So there's a lot going on in our world. It's not just the idea that 100% of the people that you personally see each and every single day for as long as you've lived on this planet are all flesh and blood, soulful people. You have, in that sense, encountered a great deal of projections as you are walking down the street each and every single day. Again, in major populaces mainly. So if you're in kind of a small town, this would probably be reduced significantly, right? It's more so in the idea that there needs to be a lot of fill pertaining to people. Again, by the thousands that are walking down the streets. But if you're kind of in like a country area, there's hardly any people, then again, this number would be very much significantly reduced. But this percentage would pretty much be appropriate in regards to major metropolises all across the planet. So what is this attempting to tell us in regards to the idea of dimensional earth entities, holographic entities, mind shifters, background people? What's it attempting to tell us? It's telling us that this is how lucid our reality is. That we have put so much energy into believing that everything in regards to Earth is fixated, is something pertaining to such a physical, finite boundary. But it's not. Everything is ever-changing. Everything is ever-changing. And this represents the idea that we are the ones who are the operator. We're basically the operator on the switchboard here. And we're plugging in these different perspectives of ourselves. And through everything that represents the uniqueness that we are attracting people in our own universe. So our own very universe is the tapestry to where projections, other entities from other universes, other different forms of holograms are coming in and helping us to understand more about ourselves. So we have these particular background people because it is possible to interact with some of these particular background people in regards to them being just dimensional entities or holograms or mind shifters, etc. It is possible to interact with them because that's how you're seeing some of your subconscious. It's not always going to come together in a technical standpoint, that they're not always all of a sudden going to sound like a technical manual when you start asking them questions. They're going to speak to you through the aspect of the personality assigned as that projection, right? But this is how you can understand more about your subconscious, is by looking into the type of people that you attract on a daily basis. What type of energies are you attracting on a daily basis? Are there people that you again have an inner circle relationship with, that you're connecting with a lot in that way, and being able to have great conversations with them? When you walk down the street, what kind of people do you feel you are attracting in your space? What are they doing? Are they busybodies? Are they running around and they're flying around by the seat of their pants? They don't have a second to spare? Or do you see some people that are really taking time to converse, take times to enjoy each other's company? There may just be, again, some people that are quietly meditating, right? This is all telling you about your subconscious. So basically, through the Psi Academy episode here, we're looking into the idea about how your life mind works. So this is basically dialoguing with the life mind, or in this particular way, the reality body. So the more that we are able to work with the life mind, the reality body, and getting an understanding about the type of people that we are attracting, and that we are becoming very, very adept at utilizing our own inner senses, we can just tell. We can just start walking down the street and well, no, that's a projection. I can tell. There's a truck going by, speeding by all the time. It's the same looking truck all the time. That's a projection, right? We're just getting this understanding because we're starting to understand our own landscape. We're starting to understand what the reality body is bringing to us and telling us about ourselves. So again, it's one big, gigantic, enigmatic puzzle. one gigantic, enigmatic reflection of ourselves that we are seeing. And it's vast and it's beautiful, because if you can almost look at every single person that you see like a star in the sky, you will see how truly wondrous reality is. That the apparitions you may see, again, just appearing in the parks or appearing inside a home in that sense, is all just part of someone who has represented an emotional connection to their equilibrium. But again, it's also telling you something about yourself as well. How that person behaves, how you perceive them, is how you are looking back at that apparition and what that apparition is telling you. So be it an apparition that you see in an old house, be it, again, hundreds of background people that you see walking down the street and not being able to interact with you, or maybe having a little chit chat. It's just giving you the idea that everything around you is wondrous, and that not one person will ever have an identical experience of perspective as yourself. You will always have your unique perspective. You will always have something to share. You will always have something to genuinely look at and see exactly how a person just walks by you. Maybe they greet you, maybe they tip you a hat, maybe they just want to, they're in a rush and they're going to try and cut you off. However these particular entities want to communicate with you. It's all part of a message. It's all part of perspective. And one of the biggest challenges we have when looking at perspective is being able to articulate an idea of what that means to us. Sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes we just have to let feeling be the guide. Sometimes we just know if a person is just walking by and just suddenly tips their hat at us as a greeting and walks by, we may not even be able to know how we attracted that. But do we need to? How did it make you feel in the moment when that person just walked by and tipped your hat, and now they're just a projection? You look back and they're gone. So what did that mean to you? Rather than the idea of investigating, oh my God, that was a background person. That was a dimensional earth entity, etc. Right? Okay, that's cool. But what did that mean to you? What did that do to you? When that gentleman tipped his hat to you and you just kept walking, how did you feel? Felt nice. Just felt like a great show of respect. The feeling spoke for itself. Exactly. And that's a good way of articulating perspective. It does not always have to be a 1,000-page journal entry about attempting to figure out what reality is attempting to tell you. Sometimes all you have to do is embrace the feeling presently. Embrace the feeling here and now. What did that energy do to you? If a person's cutting you off and they bump into your shoulder, what's the feeling that comes up? Because that was their entire purpose, was to into your shoulder. Be sure there wasn't any other purpose. Maybe it was the type of clothes they're wearing, they're doing this, blah, 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 right? And we start to overanalyze. So look into the idea of what the science of the simple is telling you in regards to the invoking of a feeling that happens at that very moment that person, brushes your shoulder. Maybe that may represent something in regards to conflict, something that represents a dissatisfactory feeling with yourself. Right? So whatever your feelings are telling you in the moment, that is the purpose of the perspective altogether, in being able to work with these entities and being able to work with your inner circles, being able to work with apparitions. It's all just a part about how you are diversifying perspective by allowing the feeling itself to be your guide. So your feeling of that moment is truly the perspective to helping you see why such a thing happened. The feeling will always speak louder than the thought and the analysis. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Psi Academy. I am Brad Johnson, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Feel free to check out my website, realitywhisperer.com. Thank you so much. Take care. Namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.